Video is starting to make me so mad. I've tried so many times and things keep happening, so now I'm pissed off. And that kind of goes with this week's topic, actually, which is emotional changes. I'm Oliver. I'm also pissy. Welcome. Before I actually touch on anything about emotional changes, I wanted to touch on two myths about things that you will experience when you're transitioning, and one of them applies to I think every person that transitions, and that is hormones change who you are as a person, and that is not true. That is not true at all. The only thing that hormones can change about you is it could possibly bring out your inner self, and it could make your self-esteem increase, and it can help you be more outgoing and be more social with people and be less, just alone and keep to yourself. So, that isn't true. I promise you it won't change who you are. And the other one applies to only female to males, and that is testosterone makes you violent. But saying testosterone makes you violent is like claiming it is your parents' fault that you broke a rule. It's not true, and you should not use hormones as a crutch for you punching somebody in the face. That's not acceptable, and I think that's ridiculous. Emotional changes, things that I have experienced, things I expected to experience, things that you can expect to experience, and how I deal with them. For emotional changes, I think the main things that I expected before I started hormones was that I would be angry, and then my sex drive would increase. I don't know if you consider that an emotion, but I do. So, anger and sex drive, I expected those two, but the rest of them I did not expect. So, anger and sex drive were both true, but there's many more emotions that I have experienced. Anger, we will start with. I did not become a more angry person. I've always been kind of short-tempered, but now it applies to different things. Now, things that never made me angry before, they just piss me off. And it's always little things that are very irrelevant and petty. And an hour after I get all pissed off, I'll sit there and I'll think about how stupid it was for me to get so angry. But I still do, and I don't even know what to do about it. Something that kind of goes with anger that I did not expect was being so irritable around my shot. A few days before and a few days after I get my shot, I am the most irritable person you have ever met. I'm worse than a 13-year-old girl on her period. Honestly, I know, for example, my dad. In the mornings, he'll sometimes sing, and I'm not a morning person anyway, but he'll sometimes sing, and when I'm about to get my shot, or right after, I will get so pissed at him that I just want to throw a loaf of bread at his face and tell him to stop. It gets to the point where I want to throw bread at my father. Next one. Sadness. I have sadness is the next one. And unlike irritability and anger, sadness did not increase, sadness decreased. I don't get sad anymore, really. I just don't really experience sadness. I mean, I can if something drastic happened. I also don't think anything bad has really happened to me recently, so I don't really have any reason to be sad. But I just don't really feel the need to cry as often. And it's not that I can't, I know I can, it's just, I don't feel it's needed. And so, less things make me sad, which that's not a bad thing, I won't complain about that. Sex drive that I mentioned. Woo, sex drive. This is interesting because I believe for male to females, it will decrease when you start hormones, because women have less of a sex drive than men typically. But with female to males, it will increase, and I don't mean it'll increase to here. It increases to like here, but you can't see my hand when I do that. But it's all the way up there. It gets pretty bad. So my tip is, when you start hormones, you need to expect anger and your sex drive to change somehow. Regardless of whether or not your sex drive increases or decreases, something will happen to it, and it will be weird for a while, because you won't know what to do with yourself. My appetite changed too. That's not an emotion, but you should expect that, because you will probably want to eat your house. I know I do sometimes. On top of all those, I wrote calmness. which may seem contradicting, but there's a reason. I am much better in stressful situations now. Now I can deal with things, I can think logically, I can keep myself calm. And before then, before our hormones, I would probably throw a fit and not be able to deal with anything, and it would be bad. It would just not be a good experience. But now I'm more level-headed, and I can kind of keep myself in the game. What keeps me from busting into a rage is I typically avoid the situation. I know that's not the best way to go about things sometimes, but what I mean is, like, if somebody's trying to argue with me, I'll walk away. I won't get into it with them because that's not going to solve anything. I'll just walk away, calm down, and maybe talk to them after if I don't think it's too irrelevant. Or if I can't avoid it, I will typically just try and think, how is this going to make me look? If I freak out and I like throw a book at somebody's face because I'm pissed off, how is that going to make me look? That's going to make me look like a terrible person, and people aren't going to want to associate with the person that throws books at people when they get pissed off. So you kind of think ahead of time. Think of what your actions now are going to have as consequences later. I think, honestly, that I've handled my changes emotionally pretty well, and when I don't handle them well, the people around me, they do, thankfully. I haven't gotten into confrontations with any, like, strangers, but I know I did get in an argument with a friend of mine, like a pretty bad argument, and I just ended up apologizing, and I told him, you know, what I said was completely it was just blown up out of proportion, and he was like, you know, I've been through puberty before, I know how you're feeling, so I kind of understand, you know, that you're just pissed off, and it's easy for you to get pissed off. So it's nice to have people that will, if they don't understand, they'll accept it, and if I'm not handling my changes, they try and tolerate me, as hard as that can be. So that's all I really have to say. Emotionally right now I'm drained, so that's always fun. But emotions that I have experienced: anger, sadness, sex drive, I still consider that emotion. Irritability, calmness, and things that you should for sure expect is anger and sex drive to change somehow. Because it will. And appetite. But I didn't even throw that in there. So, yeah, I will see you guys next week. Hope this was beneficial in some way, shape, or form. And my videos will start being at better times because finals are almost over. Yes! High school sucks. See you guys next week.